Han Bin is a firm believer that he's just one lucky break away from finally turning his life around. Staring down a massive violet wolf, he dances on a knife's edge, dodging claws that miss his face by mere millimeters. He knows a single mistake means game over, so he grits his teeth and waits for that one perfect opening, before delivering a strike that sends the beast straight back to the lobby. Finally, a win. He just took down a level 4 monster, and the system notification pops up to confirm he's earned the experience. He can already taste freedom, ready to leave this hellhole and move on to the next zone, but his celebration is cut short. Out of nowhere, the system starts spitting out garbled error messages, pulling the ultimate bait and switch. Instead of hitting level 5 so he can leave, the game glitches and resets him all the way back to level 1. All his progress wiped out in an instant without a single word of explanation. Han Bin is in total disbelief, begging the system to just let him out. But the system is heartless. If you aren't level 5, nobody leaves. Period. Now he's trapped in a nightmare loop where progress is literally impossible. 1 year passes, then 2, and he's still there grinding against monsters that get uglier by the day. By year 5, he's starting to lose it. He has the hollowed-out eyes of a man who's seen way too much, swatting gargoyles out of the sky with the same bored energy you'd use on a mosquito. He's become a human meat grinder, surviving on nothing but pure, stubborn refusal to kick the bucket. By the 7th year, he's scratching marks into the stone like a prisoner. By year 10, he doesn't even bother. The system promised him an epic adventure, and technically it delivered. It gave him a decade of exclusive content, though the only real prize is not going completely insane in the silence of the cave. Time has lost all meaning. His only companions are the endless monsters he has to butcher just to stay alive. At this point, his level is a joke. No level 5 on Earth has the physique of a Greek god that this kid carries around so casually. 10 years of hunting hellhounds has turned him into a literal force of nature. Every swing of his blade deletes whatever is in front of him, completely shattering every rule the system ever had. Finally, the cave is behind him and it's back to civilization. Welcome to Latentiv, a world that looks like a fairy tale from above, but reveals its rot the moment you step into the back alleys. A couple of shady characters have just arrived, and they aren't here to make friends. The redhead is showing zero mercy, tearing into some poor guy with a terrifying level of enthusiasm. She's completely unhinged, and it's clear she's loving every second of it. Her partner tries to reel her in before they attract the guards, but they're on a mission. They're hunting an Earthling. See, being from Earth in this world is like walking around with a giant target on your back. To someone without a soul, a human life is a small price to pay for a set of coordinates. Poor Han Bin. He's barely set foot in the city, and these psychos are already picking up his scent. Look at this guy, he hasn't been here 2 minutes, and he's already got a rabid dog latched onto his arm. Han Bin has no clue what the hell is going on. All he knows is that he's on the ground, wrestling a beast that wants him for lunch. With no weapons and zero strategy, his only option is to grab a rock and swing with every ounce of strength he has left. He manages to knock the thing off, but the shock keeps him pinned to the dirt. The dog is still right there, bleeding and snarling, ready for round 2. Han Bin realizes there's no way out of this. It's kill or be killed. Amidst his desperate screams at a monster trying to rip his throat out, he suddenly hears a sound any gamer would recognize in their sleep. A golden window appears, floating right in front of his eyes. The system is kind enough to inform him that his opponent is a level 1 hellhound. Basically, it's a warning that the lowest tier mob in existence is about to finish him off before he even learns the controls. Han Bin can't decide whether to panic or feel insulted. Experience points, levels, monsters. It makes his head spin. He's been sucked into some kind of fantasy RPG. It's hard to process how everything went south in the blink of an eye. Just a while ago, Han Bin was a normal guy, waking up late and feeling more tired than motivated to face the day. Having just finished his mandatory military service, he figured he'd already paid his dues to society for a lifetime. He had the perfect routine: PC games, fast food, and zero responsibilities. He thought life after the army would be a breeze, but fate had a nasty surprise waiting for him. He was just sitting in his gaming chair, shoving junk food into his face, when black smoke erupted from the floor and sucked him straight into the slaughterhouse. The scream he let out echoed through the whole block as his room was left completely empty. Next thing he knew, he woke up in the dark, surrounded by people who didn't exactly come with their factory settings. Everyone was buck naked. They're all just as lost, wondering if they've kicked the bucket or if this is some collective nightmare. It looks like the line for the world's weirdest nightclub. They took 7 billion people. They basically emptied the earth for this experiment. The beings running this place finally decide it's time to hand out the tutorials, though they take their sweet time, acting like government clerks 5 minutes before the weekend starts. One of these guys screws up and installs the wrong guide for candidate 398. And naturally, our protagonist is the one who gets stuck with the glitched support system. Poor guy just can't catch a break. Without a single explanation, they toss him through a portal and dump him straight into the world of Selha Latna with fewer resources than a castaway on a wooden raft. He lands in a red desert that looks like literal hell. He's got no weapons, no clothes, and the first thing he encounters is a beast looking at him like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Han Bin doesn't back down and beats it with a rock in a total frenzy until the hellhound stops moving. He's taken down his first enemy, only for the system to tell him he's earned a pathetic 13 experience points. It's like being parched in the desert and getting a brochure for mineral water as a reward for your hard work. So there he is, drenched in blood, realizing his entire life was ruined in the span of 10 minutes. He's only been out of the military for 3 months, and he's already been drafted into another war without being asked. Look at him, sitting among monster guts. His biggest worry isn't the pain, it's the thought of dying a virgin. A man with his priorities straight. The tutorial, with all the grace of a sledgehammer to the thumb, drops a truth bomb. Due to his mediocre talent, his chances of survival are a measly 5%. It's basically suggesting he start writing his will. The screen even tries to be helpful, asking if he'd like to end his life right now to save himself the suffering. But Han Bin isn't a quitter. He refuses to give the people who sent him to this dump the satisfaction, standing up through sheer spite, which actually forces the guide to boost his stats just for refusing to die. Time to pick a class. Han Bin isn't stupid. He looks for something that lets him attack from a distance. He figures he'll be a mage so he doesn't have to smell the monster's breath while he's fighting them. But the tutorial shuts him down instantly. He doesn't have a single ounce of talent for the magical arts. He tries everything. He even tries to be a healer, but the screen rejects every option because he doesn't have the stats for anything that requires a brain. Finally, the system loses patience and forces him into the warrior class. Basically, if you're too dim for spells, at least you've got bones for the monsters to chew on. The poor guy can't even choose his own future. It's the same story with the weapons. He asks for a nice long spear to keep his distance, but the program just drops a massive greatsword at his feet. When he tries to complain, the guide brushes it off with a simple, "Oops, your life depends on a glitch tutorial," and the admin just apologized for sending you to your death. Realizing his fate is in the hands of a system error, Han Bin is ready to tear his hair out. But caught between rage and nervous laughter, he decides he won't let the higher-ups win. He grabs the heavy sword and mentally prepares for his legend to begin. He faces what's coming with his head held high, which is a truly brave gesture. Too bad wanting it doesn't teach you how to carry 40 pounds of steel without your dignity folding in half. The second he tries to move that hunk of metal they gave him, the weight wins by a landslide, and he ends up eating dirt. A textbook warrior, ladies and gentlemen. There he is, face down in the sand, because reality hits way harder than any system. It's been a week since this poor bastard touched down in the living hell known as Thelha Rathna. He keeps asking the guide when he can finally go home, but the system just ghosts him, leaving him talking to thin air. For now, he's got no choice but to keep trading blows with the local wildlife, chasing green dogs that are more slippery than a bar of soap. Turns out these things are hellhounds. To make matters worse, they're leveling up right alongside him. Fortunately, Han Bin finally managed to hit level 2, and with it he unlocked his first skill. Thrust. It's a basic move that follows the logic of every starter zone. You don't need to be a hero to survive, you just need the other guy to drop first. He still doesn't have any real sword technique, but he's become an expert at poking holes in things. The guide informs him that hound meat and blood are the only things on the menu. It's a disgusting diet, but it's the only way to keep from starving to death in this wasteland. As he chokes it down, he comforts himself with the thought that there are 7 billion other candidates out there suffering just as much as he is. He was promised he could leave the mountains once he hits level 5 to meet up with the rest of the Chosen. That's when it hits him. He's trapped in an eternal tutorial. He's a lifetime away from seeing the rest of the continent where the real action is supposed to start. The interface is glitchier than a burner phone, throwing a critical error right in the middle of the explanation. He has no idea if he'll ever get home, and with a guide this useless, he realizes he can't trust a damn thing. His only option is to grind like a madman, hit level 5, and find someone else who actually has a clue what's going on. So he puts his nose to the grindstone and heads back out to hunt. He doesn't have time to complain, only time to swing his sword and pray the blade doesn't snap. In the middle of the carnage, he unlocks horizontal slash. It's a simple move, but to him it feels like being handed a lightsaber after fighting with a toothpick. The level 3 monsters are tough, boasting the strength of trained warriors, but Han Bin isn't the same rookie who fell into this dump. His life has become a nightmare loop. Fight, get bitten, eat dog meat, sleep for a bit, and repeat. He spends his days killing copies of the same monster over and over, scraping for XP like he's hunting for loose change under the couch cushions. On the 27th day, the miracle finally happens. A golden window confirms he's reached the goal. He feels like he's on top of the world. He's now mastered 3 basic skills: thrust, horizontal slash, and vertical slash. He catches a glimpse of himself and can't believe the physique he's built. He's so jacked it looks like he'll burst out of his clothes just by breathing. Swinging that great sword feels like child's play now. It's proof that in this place hard work actually shows, though joy is a rare commodity in this pit. Just as he starts to celebrate, error messages start popping up everywhere, and he receives the ultimate sucker punch. The counter goes haywire, dropping him from level 4 back to level 1 in a heartbeat. He thinks it's just a temporary glitch, but the guide only let him taste success to make the reset hurt even more. He busts his ass fighting to regain his progress, but every time he touches level 4, he gets reset to 0. It's the dirtiest bug in history, a loop that's going to drive him insane before he ever makes it off this mountain. The interface is completely broken. Every time he takes down a hellhound, an error message pops up like a virus on an old PC. 7 years pass, and he's still trapped in the same zone, living through an endless cycle of monsters and blood. Luckily, as one of the Chosen, he doesn't age and his wounds heal within a day. Basically, they gave him immortality just so he can enjoy being chewed on again the next morning. He's so mentally exhausted he tries to believe that 7 is a lucky number, But the truth is, he's just racking up useless experience and piling up corpses in a pit that's a monument to misery. He's got more muscle than a Mr. Olympia, but he's still fighting with a rookie's moveset. He only knows those 3 basic slashes, and that's how he survives. It's like having a NASA supercomputer, but only using it to play Minesweeper for all eternity, because the error won't let him get past level 4. When a giant beast made of pure bone appears, he doesn't even flinch. Instead, a smile creeps across his face that makes you wonder who the real monster is. He knows these beasts were put here to help players level up, but he's already figured out the catch. It's just 2 things that can't die, killing each other in an infinite loop. The monster roars, but Han Bin doesn't back down an inch. If the beast is eternal, so is he, and he's got all the time in the world to prove it. He's completely lost his mind. Meanwhile, at the control center, they're sending out the 5th batch of players. The administrators go through the motions, hoping this lot will actually be useful for once, until one of them notices something strange, a file that seems to have been forgotten at the bottom of the drawer. It's Ryu Han Bin's profile. Even though the system flagged him as an error, the kid is still there, alive in the mountains and swinging his sword after years of being overlooked. Someone in the office is going to have a lot of explaining to do. Han Bin's eyes flutter open, and for a split second, he's back in the comfort of his own room. He thinks the nightmare is finally over, but this system doesn't believe in mercy. Instead, it pops up a window casually asking if he'd like to commit suicide. How thoughtful, giving the poor guy options like that. The realization hits him like a ton of bricks. He's not home, he's still trapped in that crimson hellscape. After 10 years of slaughtering monsters, he's become a literal war machine. But the program is so glitched out that he's been stuck at level 4 the entire time. The people running this show are real geniuses. They forced him to survive an eternity without ever ranking up. At this point, the only thing he's truly mastered is the bitter taste of absolute despair. Just look at his face. The guy is one bad day away from completely losing his mind. He starts to wonder if this is even living or if he should just end it all right here. But in the end, his will wins out. He's getting out of here no matter the cost. To keep from cracking in the crushing loneliness, he scavenged his own gear. He looks less like a hero and more like a background extra from a barbarian flick. He even built himself a minimalist shack out of bones, the perfect home for a man with nothing left to lose. He barely has a moment to settle in before a giant wolf shows up to ruin his downtime. The beast howls like it's the one being hunted, but Han Bin doesn't even blink. He stares at the ruins of his shack, fuming. It took him 3 years to piece that place together, and this oversized mutt on steroids leveled it in a single second. Now, out of pure spite, he decides he's going to use the wolf's carcass as the foundation for his next palace. He's sick of these creatures. They're all bark, no bite, and they don't even taste good roasted. But this puppy has a nasty trick up its sleeve. It charges up a dragon breath and unleashes a blast straight out of a movie climax. The beast brought out the heavy artillery, but to Han Bin, it's barely a breeze. He walks out of the smoke looking like he just woke up from a nap. The only thing bothering him is his singed hair. Good luck finding a barber in this dump to fix that. The beast goes ballistic, spamming fire as if it has infinite mana, and Han Bin decides he's had enough. He lunges into the fray, finally admitting the truth to himself. He doesn't have an ounce of talent for swordsmanship. He's just a brute swinging a massive hunk of metal. He doesn't have the luxury of leveling up like some lucky protagonist either. What he does have is the muscle memory of repeating the exact same slash millions of times. Consistency beats talent every single time, and he's about to prove it. With a single cross impact, he cleaves his opponent clean down the middle. It's a basic skill, but backed by his raw power, it looks like the end of the world. He's just happy the move actually worked. He survived another day, even if dinner is mutant steak again. Meanwhile, back at the program's headquarters, the administrator finally spots the glitch. It's the error boy, the one who got stuck in time. They can't believe he's still alive after 22 years in that death zone. To these entities, Han Bin is just a bug messing up their data. Reviewing his file, the supervisor laughs at the sight of a level 4 with such pathetic stats. He looks like the ultimate loser, a guy so weak even a common cold would ask permission to kill him. It's hilarious, because the system hasn't read the fine print of his power yet. Back at the campfire, Han Bin chews on a piece of monster meat. Still level 4, but the moment he opens his menu, the screen goes absolutely haywire. His actual numbers are broken. He has 4-digit strength bonuses that the interface can't even process. He's a battleship disguised as a rowboat. He doesn't understand any of it. He's just hungry and misses seeing another human face. He starts drawing little houses in the dirt like a lonely child. Poor guy, the isolation has fried his brain. Suddenly, the sky begins to shatter. The administrator has triggered the cleanup protocol to dump him elsewhere. Since the system thinks a level 4 shouldn't be there, it's kicking him out without a second thought. A blinding light sucks him upward and hurls him through a dimensional rift at terminal velocity. Han Bin soars through the void, wondering what kind of hell he's falling into now. The eternal tutorial is finally over, in the most chaotic way possible. He slams into a new zone, and the welcome party is a total disaster. A winged lizard is already waiting there, looking to turn him into breakfast. Seeing the graveyard of rusted weapons around him, he realizes his troubles are just beginning. Looks like the real world is just as friendly as the hell he left behind. The beast has him in its sights and isn't looking to make friends. Han Bin squares up. If 20 years taught him anything, it's that nothing in this life is free. Talk about a wild cliffhanger. If the system thinks our boy is just a bug, then be the bug that breaks the algorithm by smashing that like button. Subscribe to finally escape this tutorial and comment which manhwa you want to see next. See you in the next zone. After spending his entire life staring at blood-red skies and skeletal trees, seeing a simple patch of green grass blew his mind. That hellscape was the only world he'd ever known, so a landscape teeming with life felt like a fever dream. Overwhelmed by pure joy, he dove headfirst into the water, screaming like a total lunatic. He had just touched down in the kingdom of Greylook, and while he was still clueless about his surroundings, anywhere was better than the mountain where he'd been trapped for 2 decades. Checking his stats only made things weirder. Out of nowhere, he'd hit level 5 and unlocked a skill to understand the local language. The catch? You're supposedly required to be at least level 20 just to set foot on this continent. The system is still buggier than a day 1 release, but at least now he can talk to people without playing charades. Suddenly, a new window popped up displaying his final mission. Take down one of the 6 goddesses of this world. The reward for slaying a deity is the ultimate premium package, eternal youth, 3 wishes, and a ticket back to Earth with all his powers intact. To stop being a forced hermit, this guy is willing to do whatever it takes. The manual warns him to hide his identity and register with the Hunters Guild. But before he can even finish reading, a massive beast appears out of thin air to ruin the moment. The poor guy can't catch a break. The first rival to step up to him is a giant blue dragon that starts hurling insults, calling him a filthy demon the second they lock eyes. Hanbin realizes too late that he was so busy celebrating, he left his sword lying way over on the other side of the clearing. The beast breathes a torrent of blue fire to cook him alive, but the guy is way faster than he looks. He dodges the flames and recovers his blade in a flash, leaving the creature completely bewildered. Turns out this creature is named Ephor, once the pride of the Dragon Knights until a useless prince tried to ride her and died because he couldn't handle the reins. Ephor's owner was executed just to appease the royal family, proving that justice in this kingdom is a total joke. If the boss screws up, you're the one who pays the price. Traumatized, she fled to the forest for peace, only to be hounded by hero wannabes who only cared about farming XP. Ephor, being far too kind-hearted, spared their lives, thinking they wouldn't come back, but they returned with reinforcements and gave her a brutal beating, teaching her that humans don't deserve a shred of mercy. Right then and there, sobbing uncontrollably, the poor thing starts giving a lecture nobody asked for. She clarifies she's not a dragon, but a wyvern, and goes off on the anatomical differences between legs and wings like she's teaching a Biology 101 class. Our protagonist couldn't care less. He just wants to know how she sniffed him out so easily. Apparently, outsiders have a habit of glitching out of existence when they die. Plus, no local would be crazy enough to step foot in this forest. But as soon as he hits her with that "I haven't slept in a decade" stare, Ephor spills everything. 40 years ago, humans from other worlds started arriving. At first, it was all sunshine and rainbows until they realized that slaughtering the locals was the fastest shortcut to leveling up. They turned into a guild of level 100 psychopaths with one single goal: toppling the queen. Since the world was tired of being someone's tutorial, the 4 heroes, the heaviest hitters in Rathna, stepped up to wipe the foreigners off the map in the blink of an eye. Berol, Zenobia, and the rest of the crew did a total sweep of the land, showing absolutely no mercy. That's why now, by divine decree, any human from another world is branded a demon and executed on sight. Hearing this, Hanbin feels like fate is just trolling him. He spent decades rotting on a rock pile fighting for his life, and now that he's out, he's public enemy number 1 because of some lunatics who got here first. He's got a rage building up that he can barely contain. Now he just wants to find the demon god who brought him here and explain, as violently as possible, why you don't mess with a man's time. But before he heads off for revenge, he has to tie up the loose ends he left in the forest. The wyvern is shaking with pure terror, realizing this human is more dangerous than any wild beast. Hanbin can't risk his identity leaking, so one final scream echoing through the valley settles the matter, and the young man continues on his way. 5 days later, he finally reaches the city of Onpress, a massive hub that thrives on dungeons and the Hunters Guild. The guild hall is a den of desperate men looking to strike it rich, and a blonde receptionist who's at her wit's end trying to tell the local thugs to stop breaking everything. Suddenly, the doors swing open and the entire atmosphere shifts. The kid walks in with a physique that looks carved out of granite and a presence that strikes the whole room dumb. Nobody knows him, but with that 1,000-yard stare of a veteran, everyone assumes he just finished wiping a country off the map. The blonde goes from furious to scanning the newcomer from head to toe before flashing her best professional smile and asking if it's his first time at the guild. Taking his time, the guy looks her dead in the eye and drops his big ambition. He wants to be a hunter. It's like the final boss of a game asking for an internship. The guy looks like he could carry the whole kingdom on his back. Yet he's asking where the line for rookie starts. Hanbin breaks it down for the blue lizard. As he is now, he's a walking target. He's got no gear and no local clothes. He'll be spotted as an outsider in a heartbeat. Decades of isolation must have left him desperate for a chat because he's suddenly getting all sentimental with a monster. Ephor remembers just how ruthless humans can be and decides to help him out, but only on one condition: he can't tell a soul they know each other. The guy celebrates like he just hit the jackpot. But the second the wyvern suggests a wardrobe change, the big oaf starts stripping right then and there. The man has zero sense of modesty. "You're naked too," he argues, using the logic of someone who lived in a cave for 20 years and forgot how society works. Effer looks like she wants to die of embarrassment. Once Hez looking somewhat presentable, even if his clothes are screaming for mercy against those muscles, she explains the situation. If he wants to get anywhere near the goddesses, he needs to be one of the 4 great heroes, or a top-tier hunter. That's when Han Bin mentions his guide and realizes he's the only one who can see the floating interface. The system for Great Earth foreigners is so broken it's starting to feel like a sick joke. Effer takes charge, giving him a haircut so he stops looking like a shipwrecked survivor, and lays out the facts. Hunters can live a quiet life, but if you're high level and nobody knows your face, you'll reek of suspicion from a mile away. He has to keep a low profile and stop acting like a freak. They arrive at the city of Omperis, and the guy, now going by Eric Garoon, stands before the guild reception. He's strong enough to move mountains, but he's sweating bullets because he can't tell a lie without his face twitching. Just look at that panic. He looks like he's being interrogated for a crime. He hasn't even committed yet. Luckily, the receptionist buys his story about being from the north and gives him an official welcome. Han Bin breathes a sigh of relief, thinking the hard part is over. But things are just getting started. When she asks if he's a transfer, he clarifies that no, he's actually looking to become a hunter for the first time. The silence in the room gets heavy. Seeing a massive guy covered in battle scars claim to be a rookie is like Mike Tyson trying to sign up for a middle school boxing tournament. The veterans are already eyeing him with suspicion, and Han Bin realizes his plan to blend in died the moment he walked through the door. Without further ado, the receptionist tells him to place his hand on the stone to measure his abilities. Han Bin freezes. He knows if that thing flags him as an outworlder, the game is up. He's already imagining having to punch his way out or jump through a window like a madman. Even Effer watches from a distance, praying the big guy doesn't break anything. Finally, Han Bin takes the gamble and presses his palm down, hoping for a miracle. The results pop up and the room goes dead silent. Level 5 swordsman. The stone didn't lie. The guy looks like a demigod, but his level is that of a total scrub. The veterans who were terrified of him a second ago start laughing right in his face. Even the receptionist apologizes for being suspicious. Outworlders usually start at level 20, and this giant isn't even a quarter of the way there. Han Bin exhales, relieved even if his pride is in the gutter. Everything seems fine until they tell him the registration fee. 300 EX. It's a fortune, basically his entire 6-month budget. The poor guy's face falls, and while Effer panics in the background, he has no choice but to pay. Han Bin drops the coins on the counter with a sadness you can feel from miles away, clutching his level 5 medallion. He finally feels like a part of society, even if he's on the bottom rung where nobody even says hello. His peace is short-lived. The moment he asks about dungeon exploration quests, a flashy blonde guy with 2 swords on his back cuts him off. With a smug grin, he tells him not to stick his nose where it doesn't belong if he doesn't want to end up as monster bait. Know your place, level 5. The blonde sneers. Han Bin stares back with a look that says anything but thank you. This guy with the protagonist complex is named Loud, and he's clearly his own biggest fan. He flaunts his level 27 status like he's a god among mortals, looking down on any hunter who hasn't hit level 13. Eric watches in total disbelief. He can't believe this kid is the same level as Effer, and already thinks he owns the world. The receptionist suggests Eric join their party to learn the ropes, but Loud shuts it down, claiming his team is already full. Just then, a redhead named Atis appears. She claims to be a level 25 mage and clearly knows how to command a room. But no matter how she tries to hide it, Eric's guide doesn't lie. The girl is actually level 37. Eric was perfectly fine being rejected, but the blonde gets a sudden burst of chivalry to impress the receptionist and agrees to take the level 5 insect along. The poor brat has no idea he just invited a massive problem into his life just to look like a hero. Laud tries to humiliate him by mocking his giant sword, calling it a toy, and tries to lift it to show off his own strength. Predictably, the thing doesn't budge an inch. Eric gets tired of the circus act, and with a look that could freeze blood, he hoists the weapon with one hand, leaving Loud dangling from it like a keychain. "Let go," Eric says, and the blonde turns pale as he realizes he just embarrassed himself in front of the whole tavern. While the drunks on the balcony start cheering for a fight, a man with a grim expression watches them intently from above. It looks like Eric has finally caught the attention of the wrong person. Damn, what an absolute beatdown. He completely humbled that guy. If reality hit that smug blonde as hard as the MC's sword, then don't let your finger feel too heavy to smash that like button. Subscribe to stay in the loop, and comment below to let me know which manhwa you want me to cover next. Catch you later. Nobody can believe their eyes. That arrogant blonde who thought he was untouchable is being tossed around like a rag doll by the big guy. Suddenly, a bearded man with more muscle than patience steps in, shutting the whole thing down before anyone actually gets killed. He introduces himself as Berkeman, staring the kid down with such intensity you'd think he's checking his body fat percentage just by looking at him. He warns Eric that if he breaks anything else in the guild, he'll have to answer to every single person in the room. The kid immediately panics. He's flat broke, and the last thing he needs is to get kicked out on his very first day. Meanwhile, the blonde guy spits venom from the floor, screaming that nobody would ever want a pathetic level 5 in their party. Eric starts to get discouraged, thinking about all the money he wasted just to get registered, but the big guy cuts him off with a friendly punch to the gut that nearly knocks the wind out of him. He tells Eric that with a build like his, leveling up will be a breeze, and offers him a spot on his team. Eric jumps at the chance. He's managed to land the most motivational leader on the market. He joins Berkeman's crew and they head straight for the city of Onprus, a place that survives entirely on whatever they can scavenge from the dungeons. Their destination is the Saith Woods. Lately, it's become so dangerous that the monsters have started wandering into nearby villages to see what's for dinner. That's when the Devolks show up. Nasty green things that look like a failed experiment between a gorilla and a lizard. Berkeman steps up as the team's tank, immediately starting to crack skulls with his shield. The old man hits like a freight train, though he gets a bit overconfident and nearly gets taken out by a pincer attack. Amber, the spearwoman, takes the opportunity to put him in his place. Seeing the tank struggle is the perfect excuse for her to talk some trash, though the way she looks at him makes it clear she's worried sick. When she sees the gash on his arm, she turns redder than her own armor. There's a tension between these two that a potion won't fix. Luckily, Erwin, Berkeman's sister, is a healer who doesn't mess around. She fires off a light spell that leaves the old man good as new. Feeling better than ever, the guy starts flexing his muscles, completely oblivious to the monster creeping up behind him. But Humbert, the party's mage, obliterates it instantly with a flaming hammer. You can tell these guys are a well-oiled machine. From the back, Eric watches the whole thing with total boredom. Since he's officially just a level 5 porter, his only job is to watch the bags and stay out of the way. The others are nice enough to share the loot, but they keep him on the sidelines because they think he's too fragile for combat. If only they knew this kid has more power in one finger than all of them combined. While Eric is distracted, the zone boss appears, a level 25 Red Devolk. The beast lets out a roar, acting like he owns the place, but before it can even finish its grand entrance, Eric shatters its skull with a single pebble. He didn't even need a technique, just a flick of the wrist and the problem was solved. The worst part is the system doesn't even give him experience. For someone at Eric's real level, taking that thing down was like swatting a mosquito. Once the area is cleared, Erwin pulls a magic stone from the corpse, celebrating because she knows it's worth a small fortune. While the others are busy doing the math on their earnings, Eric starts butchering the remains with incredible speed. His hands move so fast they're a blur, and in seconds, the loot is prepped and ready for sale. The healer is stunned, asking him how on earth he can move that fast. With the casual tone of someone mentioning the weather, Eric explains he's been doing this for 20 years. The kid is only 24, meaning he was skinning monsters while other kids were learning to walk. His skills didn't come from some heroic training, but from his captors. They took him so young that he became an expert at butchering beasts before he could even read. With a calm smile, he mentions he can't even remember his parents' faces as he continues carving meat like it's nothing. The mood gets so heavy that even Eric's backpack starts to feel light by comparison. These people are so overwhelmingly kind, it almost makes you want to slap them. They hug him and welcome him to the family like a stray puppy. Berkman gets all humble, saying levels don't matter. Easy for a guy who's been stuck at level 25 for 5 years to say. They assure him he's safe with them because they don't even enter the dungeons. They're absolutely convinced they're saving his life. Under their doting, grandparent-like gazes, Eric is on the verge of a total mental breakdown. Unable to take any more of the sweetness, the kid bolts. He makes up an excuse about needing to practice his swordplay just to get some air, while the rest of them yell after him not to overexert himself. They're so precious, it's actually nauseating. Eric sprints through the woods at a pace these guys couldn't even imagine. Desperate because he can't find a single thing that gives him an ounce of XP. He blows past a horned dog and a cranky monkey. But to him, they're less than ants. It hits him then that Aoife was the strongest thing in the region. He wants to kill himself. She gave him the news with a smile, never mentioning she was sentencing him to an early retirement in a level 1 nursing home. He's just about to give up and head back when he suddenly hears something heavy. It's not the boss from earlier, but it's definitely not a normal monster. Eric lights up, thinking he's finally found the jackpot, and launches into an all-out attack. He leaps, bringing his sword down with a strike that kicks up a mountain of dust. But as the smoke clears, he finds himself staring at a redhead who apparently decided that clothes were optional. The kid is speechless. Nice aim, Eric. You went looking for a beast to farm and found something else entirely. My bad, is all he can manage to choke out. Han Bin stands there, completely frozen. The beast he was tracking turned out to be the mage from Lode's party, who apparently decided the middle of the woods was the perfect spot for a skinny dip. He tries to make a quick exit, stammering out apologies for the accidental eyeful while backing away slowly. But the redhead isn't about to let him off the hook. He cuts Han Bin off, immediately pinning him as a suspicious creep. Look at Han Bin. The guy clearly has more common sense than the rest of this forest combined. He gives it to him straight. This isn't exactly a safe neighborhood, and it's definitely not a public restroom. The mage starts getting paranoid and begins lobbing fireballs like crazy, but Han Bin just tanks the flames with saint-like patience. He tries to explain that it's not cool to bully someone just because they look like an easy target. That little lecture hits the redhead right in his pride, and out of nowhere, he gets all sensitive, looking like he actually regrets being such a hothead. Just when it looks like they might actually settle things like adults, the other drama queen of the group shows up to ruin the moment. The swordsman charges in like some shonen protagonist, screaming like a lunatic and throwing sparks in every direction. Seeing Han Bin holding the mage's hand, the guy's imagination goes wild. He starts barking about how Han Bin is total scum, who finally showed his true colors by trying to put the moves on a lady from his party. Han Bin is completely lost. mostly because there is absolutely nothing ladylike about this redhead, but the swordsman is too far gone to listen to reason. The whole clearing lights up as the guy starts charging his ultimate move. While the guy strikes his over-the-top battle pose, our protagonist just watches him with the same face you'd make at a cooking tutorial gone horribly wrong. He can tell the technique is a mess. That stance is basically a formal invitation to get knocked out in a single hit, acting like he's the center of the universe. The guy unleashes his twin blade technique, luminous thunder, swearing he's going to wipe Hanbin off the map. Our guy doesn't even flinch. He actually uses the distraction to tell the mage to please put some clothes on, which finally makes the redhead realize his current state of undress. The big attack is a total flop. He dumps all that power directly into Hanbin's shoulder, and the only thing he manages to do is make himself look like a clown. The impact creates a massive flash, but once the smoke clears, our human tank hasn't moved an inch. Realizing he just swung at a mountain of muscle that didn't even feel the hit, the swordsman's ego evaporates instantly. He goes from action hero to humble servant in the blink of an eye, apologizing profusely. Night falls and Hanbin sits there, stewing in his own frustration with a 1,000-yard stare. He looks like he'd rather be breaking rocks than putting up with these amateur hour adventurers. Berkman tries to swing by and offer some comfort, but Hanbin is stuck in his own head. Inside the cabin, the mood is heavy as the medical report comes in. Thanks to Hanbin hauling ass to get him back, the wounded man is going to make it, but the poor guy is in so much pain his screams can be heard from outside. At sunrise, Atis gets the wagon ready to transport the patient back to the city of Onpris. With a look that's half guilt and half wanting to quit his job, Hanbin watches them leave, and to top off the day, he ends up discovering something about Atis he never saw coming. Add another surprise to the list, it turns out his traveling companion wasn't exactly who he thought. Poor guy can't catch a break, and now he finds out the mage is keeping some serious secrets. 3 months pass with Berkman's crew, and that whole incident is ancient history. One night at camp, a rumor starts circulating. Word is that Lod Guy lost his mind and went solo into a dungeon. Given his actual skill level, that's basically a suicide mission. While handling the heavy lifting, Hanbin overhears that those places are crawling with level 30+ monsters. These are dungeons created by the god Ormflaus himself, where the monsters don't know the meaning of mercy. If the guy really dove headfirst into that meat grinder, he must be desperate for a healing relic, forgetting the minor detail that you have to actually survive to use a health potion. They say those relics can heal any wound, but the odds of that swordsman even laying a finger on one are slim to none. Hanbin knows that if he keeps grinding on forest dogs, he's never going to get anywhere. This is his chance to stop being a level 5 fraud, so while everyone else is fast asleep, he heads deep into the Saith Woods to go after the big prize. He treks through the forest with his guard so low you'd think he was on a casual hike. The guy is exhausted, yawning like he hasn't slept in months, until he suddenly realizes he's not alone. He comes face to face with a 10-foot tall ant that looks like it crawled straight out of a horror movie. The system warns him the thing is level 31, and its shell is sword resistant. Bad news for our hero, since the only thing he's carrying is a massive slab of a sword. To make matters worse, the bugs can talk. They're already licking their chops, mocking him and saying that toothpick of a weapon won't even leave a scratch. Without wasting time on talk, Hanbin lets out a swing that cleaves one of them in half like it was made of wet paper. The others immediately panic, wondering if that sword is enchanted or if this kid is some kind of monster in disguise. The leader decides that running is the best option, because nothing clarifies your priorities like seeing your buddy turned into 2 separate piles of meat in a heartbeat. He bolts toward the portal, and Hanbin chases after him like the bug owes him money. The monster dives headfirst into the glow to save its skin, but all it does is confirm exactly what Hanbin wanted to know. That portal leads straight into the Eifen dungeon. Destination set. Hanbin stumbles upon a shimmering blue portal, but there's a giant cockroach standing guard who clearly takes his job way too seriously. The bug is shaking like a leaf, stammering that he's just following orders. Nobody gets in, and the place stays exactly as it is. Not in the mood for games, Hanbin decides to offer him a very simple, very generous deal. The guard is going to pretend he never saw a human today, and in exchange for keeping his head attached to his neck, he's going to bury this portal in dirt. Sounds like a win-win. Meanwhile, deep in the heart of the dungeon, a group of adventurers is having the worst day of their lives. The axe wielder and the mage, Elisha, are backed into a corner, struggling to leave so much as a scratch on their enemies. The redhead tries to kick the insects back, but it's like hitting a solid concrete wall. That natural armor they're rocking is just plain unfair. Things go from bad to worse when one of the monsters drives a spike right through the girl's leg. Elisha screams in agony, desperately trying to buy a few seconds with a blinding light spell, which unfortunately ends up blinding Hanbin instead. Now the guy is a sitting duck. He can't see a damn thing, and the attackers are closing in. The group's healer is taken out of the equation in the blink of an eye, but just as the creature prepares to make a meal out of the warrior, something streaks through the air at terminal velocity. A flash of steel, and the monster's head is gone. The redhead notices their savior's technique is surgical. He broke their legs first to drop their guard before finishing them with a single, clean stroke. Whoever this is, they know exactly where to hit to end the fight fast. The group feels like they just hit the jackpot. Turns out their savior is Raud, a legendary swordsman who supposedly entered the dungeon solo just to sharpen his skills. The redhead is already fanboying over meeting a living legend, but the reality is a lot more pathetic. The guy is actually a total mess who got blackout drunk at the guild and woke up down here without a clue how he arrived. He's been wandering in circles for 2 months, eating whatever crawls on the walls. He's basically Robinson Crusoe, if Crusoe lived in a damp, bug-infested hole. Drunk or not, the guy has his moments. He pulls out a healing potion worth a small fortune and pours it over the girl's wound without a second thought. Raud plays it cool, claiming he's only using it so she can hurry up and lead him out of this dump. He's a real sweetheart with major communication issues. But just when he's looking like the hero they all needed, nature decides to call. A sudden, violent intestinal emergency hits him at the worst possible time. Just look at that face. He's breaking out in a cold sweat and clenching his teeth because he is half a second away from a total disaster. The man cannot take one more ounce of pressure. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake as hundreds of hungry creatures come swarming through the tunnel. Raud sees the perfect chance to save his dignity and shouts for the others to run while he holds the line. The truth, he's bolting because he'd rather be devoured by a tide of monsters than suffer the public shame of losing the battle against his own bowels. He charges headlong into the swarm, praying his gut doesn't detonate in the heat of battle. Meanwhile, Han Bin is still busy turning the place into a slaughterhouse, spinning like a steel tornado to erase his opponents before they can even twitch. The guy is a human blender. He hasn't left a single jawbone intact in the entire cave. He's in a foul mood because he feels like these caves are a total waste of time. He won't stop complaining about how the tunnels are too cramped to properly swing his giant sword. In the middle of his tantrum, he runs into a few insects with delusions of grandeur. The bugs stand their ground, swearing he won't pass. But Han Bin couldn't care less about a monster's sense of honor. He wipes them off the map with a single blow, practically begging them to drop even a single scrap of experience. He's so desperate to level up, he looks like an addict looking for a fix. But as he walks through the remains, a faint glow catches his eye. It turns out that among the trash he just swept away was King Totiro, a high-level boss who had the privilege of dying without anyone even noticing he existed. He was basically collateral damage from the protagonist's yawn. The prize is a fireball bracer. Han Bin knows that taking the dungeon core means he can't farm this area anymore. But the accessory has one specific feature that would sell anyone's soul. To activate it, you have to scream the name of the attack at the top of your lungs. Without a moment's hesitation, he snaps the bracer on, strikes the most dramatic pose possible, and bellows fireball shot with everything he's got. Look at him. He's got the pure, unadulterated joy of a kid who just unlocked his very first superpower. It's not like the monsters in these places have families or anything. Dungeons are basically just monster factories. They've got these cores that spawn them out of thin air, like an infinite engine of pure chaos. Those cores are the famous artifacts, treasures any hunter would sell their own mother for. And then you've got Han Bin dead set on the idea that he's about to shoot fire from his fingertips. He strikes a pose, lets out a mighty battle cry, and nothing, not even a spark. He just stands there with his arms out, looking like a total idiot. Turns out the gadget requires level 31. Since our protagonist system is glitched, he's still showing up as a measly level 5 to him. This legendary item is just a piece of yellow junk that isn't even heavy enough to be a doorstop. He could sell it and become a millionaire, but a level 5 carrying that around is like walking through the slums with a gold bar. He'd just be asking for trouble. Better to stash it and keep moving before Buckman wakes up and realizes his best weapon has gone missing. Still, the urge to level up is stronger than common sense. He sees this hellhole as a golden opportunity. Convinced there's a jackpot at the end of the hall, he pushes forward into an area resembling an ancient temple, desperate to farm some XP before sunrise. The place is deader than a graveyard at midnight. Not a single monster in sight, so he goes with his usual tactic, yelling at the walls. He announces he's taking the core just to see if anyone is actually home. He reaches out to touch the glowing sphere, and the room reacts instantly. Slimy shadows lunge out, grabbing him with way too much familiarity, pinning him down like he's the main course. That's when the man of the house shows up, a level 45 beholder, basically a giant eyeball with way too many tentacles and a very short fuse. But Han Bin doesn't see a threat. He sees an all-you-can-eat experience buffet. This is exactly what he needs to stop being a paper, level 5. As our hero prepares to break through his restrictions, the white-haired guy nearby catches a glimpse of that level 5, hovering over Han Bin's head and completely freezes. Han Bin starts breaking into a cold sweat, frantically trying to cook up a believable lie. But luckily the swordsman is even crazier than he looks. He just starts laughing like a total lunatic. Raud has convinced himself that this is all a dungeon illusion, a trick using his own past traumas against him. Han Bin isn't slow on the uptake, so he plays right along, striking his best villainous pose. Impressive that you saw through my disguise, he says, while internally cheering that the guy invented his own fanfiction to save him the trouble. Without wasting a second, the giant eye starts lashing out with tentacles that literally split the floor in two. The white-haired guy dodges as best he can while the beast hunts for his blind spots at a terrifying speed. Finally, he lunges forward with a special technique and manages to land a direct hit right in the pupil. Han Bin watches the whole sequence with total calm, like he's watching a boring rerun on a Sunday afternoon. He even has the nerve to ask if the dungeon boss is a bit of a pushover. That comment is the final straw for the swordsman's sanity. He starts screaming like a madman. Raud goes into a total meltdown, blaming Han Bin for the loss of his honor and all his fallen comrades. He can't tell fact from fiction anymore. His fear is so overwhelming that he's completely lost his mind. He accuses Han Bin of being a demon who systematically dismantled his entire life. Han Bin is completely lost. He just watches the guy jump around, unable to make sense of how he's handling the monster. The beholder has him dead to rights, but Raud's pride is clearly hurting more than his broken bones. At this point, the man's logic has officially left the building. He concludes that if Han Bin isn't attacking him, it must mean he still considers him a comrade. And since he's a textbook psychopath, he thinks dying at the hands of a friend is the ultimate punishment. He's offering the full package, psychological trauma and a slow death, with a broken arm thrown in for free. But Han Bin didn't come here for a therapy session, and he's done listening to these delusions. He plants his feet, draws that massive slab of metal he calls a sword, and demands the only thing he actually cares about, the experience points. The old man flips a switch instantly. He snarls that he'll turn the kid into dungeon fertilizer and let the boss feast on the scraps. He screams at him, asking how he dares treat him like a toy, as if the boy is disrespecting his entire career as a villain. The air grows heavy and thick as Rude unleashes an attack with a deformed arm that looks like a pile of butcher's scraps. He's done talking. He throws himself at Han Bin to end this once and for all. What a wild ending. Gramps completely lost his mind and went full monster mode. If our boy is finally done being a glass cannon level 5, show me your legendary rank by absolutely smashing that like button. Subscribe so you don't miss out on all this XP, and let me know in the comments which manhwa we should dive into next. Catch you later.